is Christina Hernandez-Guerrero, and I oversee the public and campus programs at the USC Pacific Asia Museum. I wanted to take a moment to welcome you to this year's virtual celebration. Please take a moment to check out our wonderful lineup of programs on our website. But until then, I wanted to wish you and your loved ones a happy and healthy Year of the Ox.
Well, hello and welcome. My name is Bethany Montagano and I am the museum director. And I wanted to give you and your families a big warm welcome to the USC Pacific Asia Museum's Lunar New Year virtual celebration. February 12th marks the beginning of the Year of the Ox, and I think we can all agree that we have never been more grateful to say goodbye to the Year of the Rat and welcome the second animal of the zodiac. As the ox denotes hard work and trustworthiness and positivity and honesty, we really hope that this year will enliven our best attributes in the coming months. This year as a museum, we hope to transform some of our hardest conversations and most isolating experiences into sources of community support, candid conversation, and slow and steady forward movement in the spirit of the ox. So happy New Year, and I hope you enjoy the program. Thank you.
Happy Lunar New Year！ 在这里，我祝各位新春快乐，学业进步，财源广聚。最重要的是祝各位健健康康，團團圓圓。喺呢個新嘅一年，祝大家牛年行大運，財源亨通，事業上進，身體健康，合家團圓。希望我哋大家喺新嘅一年萬象更新，迎新春。Happy New Year！
Hi everybody, this is Quan from Barnsdall here today for the Pacific Asian Museum, and we are making dragons. So this is my dragon here that I have made. It is made of paper plates, and so I'm gonna have you guys make this dragon today. So here we have our materials. You need 6 to 8 paper plates. Now, the more paper plates, the longer your dragon. So the dragon puppet, it's up to you how long you want this to be. And if it's really long, I think you would need some tape for reinforcement just so it doesn't fall apart once it's really, really long. But 6 to 8 plates should do. And what you also need is a pencil. You need a ruler. You need scissors, staple. Okay, now this is the material that's up to you. You can paint your dragon. In that case, you would need a cup of water and a paintbrush. or you can just use markers. Either or will work. I use both. And the thing about using paint is that you would have to wait for it to dry before you go into it with details using marker. So I use both because it's easier for me that way. Of course, I am not going to wait for my dragon to dry on this video, so I can just go forward with the program. Okay, all right, so here I have my plate. And what I did with my plate is I drew a rectangle that's 1.5 by 2.5, okay? And I drew these dotted lines to show you, this is where I want you guys to cut. You're gonna take your scissors to cut all the way down to that corner. You're gonna do the same for all the corners. You're not gonna cut it all the way through. You're just gonna cut where the dotted line is. That rectangle remains intact. Do not cut out the piece out of the plate, okay? So your cut piece should look something like this. So it's nice and cut, but it's on the center. The triangle and rectangle is still there, okay? Then you're gonna fold on the horizontal lines, okay? All of them, 1, 2. So it's 2 different folds here. So I'm gonna fold here, down this way on the line, and I'm going to do the same on this side, okay? And then like that, see? Fold it once, fold twice. So you can do it again for all 3 sections, all the way towards the rectangle, you see? So now I have something that looks like this. Now what you're gonna do next is you're gonna squeeze the 2 outer sections here. You're gonna squeeze it in like this. Push it in, and then close this together. So now you sort of have like a cup, right? Sort of like a cup, all right? So I'm gonna hold this together, and then I'm going to staple maybe 2 times, 1 here and 1 here. And then the other side, 1 here and 1 there. So I'm going to show you guys. Watch. Stick your stapler into the center like that. Kind of often. Press once. Do the same on the other side. Press twice. And then you have your piece. Do the same on the other side. Now, for the plate. Your first plate. There's a little math involved here. You're going to divide it into 8 equal parts, okay? So pretend this is a pie, right? To make it 8 sections, I make a line going this way and then a line going this way. And then I divide those sections, right? So now there's 8 slices of this pie. All right, then you're gonna cut it out. Okay, so now that's a small section, right? Put it in a pile. Then you're gonna divide another plate into 6 sections, okay? And then you're gonna cut it out, put it in a pile. Then you're gonna cut 4 equal parts. Cut it out, put it in a section. You need 2 plates of this, and I'll tell you why. So as you're building your dragon, the pieces are gonna, starting from the head, it's gonna be bigger and then smaller as it touches the tail, okay? So while you have this, I'm gonna show you how I do this. I'm gonna cut this. I'm just gonna use this one first into these little sections. And what I do is I'm gonna fold this. You have to do it for all the little sections of the dragon. And the reason why I do this is you're able to lay your pieces together. Okay, so what I mean by that is this. Once I have one part of the dragon, it's easy to put this right on top. You see that? Or I'm sorry, right on the bottom. You see that? And then I staple both sides. So if I have this fold, it kind of guides me. I can't go this way. You know, it has to be right in the center, but it actually naturally falls in the center. So then I would staple each section. Okay, so I would have 4 of the 4 pieces. Second plate makes 8. So I would need 8 of these 1/4 pieces, okay? These quarter pieces. And again, fold it all together, start lining them up and stapling. If you feel better about laying it down onto the table, then do so. That'll make it easier for you. Then you can do it all at once, right? So you would keep folding, and remember, you would have 8 of these, 1/4 one or the quarter ones, right? Like that. And then you can just, as you go smaller and smaller, this is the 1/6. And then it will get smaller and smaller and smaller until you reach a tail, okay? So you're just gonna staple them. You're gonna take one piece, put it on the underside, staple, take another piece, put it on the underside, staple, and it's gonna become this long chain, okay, of just pieces of paper plate. Again, from big, medium to small, okay? So once you have that done, I have here, this is my dragon. It should look something like this. Now, some of the fold, you can see the creases of them, guides me into how the piece I want my dragon to be. Now, I have leftover ribbons from the holidays. You can just take any scrap ribbon you want. You can use tissue paper. So I can extend the tail longer. At this point, you can paint your dragon. I painted mine early because I want to show you what else you can do to it. Okay, so I took a clean paper plate and I basically painted one side or half of it gold. Okay, I use gold paint to paint this. And then I would cut it into smaller pieces. And the reason why I'm cutting this into smaller pieces, and I think you can see what I mean, I need them for this scale, okay? Now, that's just for aesthetic purposes. If you like how this looks, then do it. If you don't have to do it, right? You don't have to. You don't have to fold this either. This is it's very small. And it fits perfectly well. So watch this. So this is the crease of my scale. It just fits perfectly well. And all you do is staple it once. Staple it once and it just bends so nicely. It bends so nicely. Like this is the scale. So I painted mine already. Once all the paper and stapling is done, you can paint it. Don't stick on that tail until you're finished with painting it, okay? So here I have my painted piece and I took the marker and I drew in my details, okay? Remember, I'm using both paint and marker. If you wanna use one, just paint, that's fine. Just wait for it to dry, just like I would for this project. Wait for it to dry before you put onto the details, okay? Because sometimes wet on wet paint, it's gonna mix together, especially if you have water nearby. If you're choosing to do what I'm doing, I waited for the paint to dry completely. Because we all know, felt tip marker and wet paint, they do not mix. What ends up happening is it would dry your felt marker. Okay, so I have here my black marker and I am just drawing little details onto my dragon. Can I add more details? Yes, you can add whatever color you want. I have here a silver metallic marker, and that too, you can add more and more detail. So it's all up to you how long you want your dragon to be and what materials you want to put onto your dragon and how much details you want to put on there. I hope you have fun making this project, and I'll see you next time.
Happy Lunar New Year. From my family to yours, we wish that this year of the ox brings you health, happiness, and prosperity. Celebrating Lunar New Year with my colleagues and friends at the USC Pacific Asia Museum is one of the highlights of my year, and I can't wait to welcome you all back to our museum in person. Я поздравляю вас с Новым годом. Пусть этот год быка принесет вам удачи, счастья и хорошего здоровья. До следующего года. Hello, Hello and happy Lunar New Year. My name is Valentina and I'm an educator at the USC Pacific Asia Museum. Today I'm excited to read 2 stories inspired by this special holiday. This important Chinese holiday emphasizes sharing, togetherness, and family. I hope these stories inspire you to embrace these values in your life. We will begin with The Runaway Walk by Ying Cheng Copestein and illustrated by Sebastia Serra. One Chinese New Year's Eve, a poor couple sent their son, Ming, to the market. "Trade these last few eggs for a bag of rice," said Mama Zhang. "Then we can make some stir-fried rice to share with the neighbors." "It won't be much of a celebration again this year," Papa Zhang said with a sigh. "You'd think that by working for Mr. Li, the richest man in Beijing, we would have enough to invite everyone over for the New Year's feast." Ming hurried off, eager to do his mother's bidding. It saddened him to see his hard-working parents being cheated by the greedy Mr. Li. As he walked, he daydreamed about what a real feast would be like and how nice it would be to have just one new toy to share with his friends. A small old man stopped Ming near the market. "Hello, son. I see you have some eggs there. I will trade you this wok for them." "No," said Ming, "I need rice. Besides, your wok is rusted and has no handle." Just then, the wok sang out, "Boy, boy, trade for me. I am more than what you see." Ming had never heard a wok sing. He thought, "This wok is magic. If it can sing, it must be able to do other amazing things." So he made the trade. The old man sauntered off, chuckling happily to himself. Ming's mother wasn't happy. "Why did you trade for this battered old wok? What are we going to cook in it?" Before Ming could answer, the wok sang out, "Mother, make me shine so bright, and you shall have food to share tonight." "See, Mama," said Ming, "it's a special wok." "Let's do what it says," said Papa Zhang. "We're all hungry." So Mama Zhang washed and polished the wok until it sparkled. Then she set it on the table. To their surprise, it rolled off the table and out the door. "Where are you going?" cried Mama Zhang. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, to the rich man's wife I go," sang the wok, and it briskly hopped down the road. The wok skipped all the way to the Li kitchen. Mrs. Li was overseeing the servants prepare the New Year's feast for her family. The Lis never shared their food with anyone. The wok plopped down on the counter. "Where did this come from?" asked Mrs. Li. No one knew. "Well, put it to good use," she ordered. "It will make a nice serving bowl." So the servants put in the wok festive stir-fried rice, pork dumplings, kung pao chicken, steamed buns, and walnut shrimp. There was still room for more. They added long-life noodles, ginger fish, and rice cakes. Yet still there was room for more. "Keep filling it," commanded Mrs. Li. "I must go change for the party." No sooner had the servants set the last bit of food in the wok than it jumped out the window. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, to the poor man's house I go," sang the wok as it trotted down the road, brimming with delicious food. The Zhang family could hardly believe their eyes. They gleefully removed the food and set up a big feast. As soon as it was empty, the wok rolled out to their courtyard. "Where are you going?" cried Ming. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, to the rich man's son I go," sang the wok as it galloped away. The wok caught up with the rich man's son Lan at the market, who, though he had many toys, he never shared them with other children. The wok blocked the road in front of him. "What's this?" wondered Lan. "I could use it to hold all my goodies." And without bothering to find the owner, the chubby boy grabbed the wok. Lan bought fireworks, toy dragons, cymbals, and drums. He piled them into the wok, and there was still room for more. So he bought lanterns, yo-yos, and kites. Finally, his weak arms grew tired, and he headed home. When Lan arrived home, he put down the wok and went to find his mother. No sooner had he turned his back than the wok hopped away. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, to the poor man's house I go." It pranced all the way back to the Zhang's house with all the goodies safe inside. Ming bounced with joy as he emptied the wok. "There are enough toys here for all my friends," he exclaimed. The wok rolled over to the door and out their courtyard once again. "Where are you going?" cried Mr. Zhang. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, to the rich man's house I go," sang the wok as it spun down the road. The wok arrived at Mr. Li's shop just as he was counting the money he had cheated out of the poor people of Beijing. It leaped through the window and landed on the counter in front of him. "Well, here's a nice pot to hold my money." Mr. Li put handful after handful of gold coins into the wok, and there was still room for more. He dragged out a bag from under his counter and dumped all those coins into it too. No sooner has Mr. Li emptied the last of his coins into the wok than it jumped out the window. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, to the poor man's house I go." It scooted down the road all the way back to the Zhang's house with all the money safely inside. Ming and his parents danced with delight. They invited all the poor people in Beijing to their New Year's feast. Mother Zhang served the food, Father Zhang divided the coins among the families, and Ming handed out the toys to all the children. In the middle of the party, without anyone noticing, the wok slid out the door. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, to the rich man's house I go." It hopped to the Li house where the father and mother and their spoiled son were weeping and wailing and blaming each other for their misfortune. When they saw the wok, they jumped up. "There's the wok that took all our food," cried Mrs. Li. "And my toys," whined the boy. "I'll break it for stealing our gold," vowed Mr. Li. The wok sang, "I dare you three to try and catch me." The Li family chased after the wok. Chubby Lan couldn't make it very far without losing his breath, and Mrs. Li had trouble running in her fancy shoes. But Mr. Li finally caught up with it. To stop the wok, he jumped inside, pressing it to the ground. "Now I've got you," he growled. "Wait for me," called Mrs. Li. "I will teach that wok a lesson." Mr. Li tried to get up but found that he was stuck tight. When Mrs. Li grabbed his legs to pull him out, she slipped into the wok too. Chubby Lan finally arrived out of breath. "Help! Help! Pull us out!" cried his parents. Lan grabbed their legs but lost his balance and fell inside with them. "Skippity-hoppity-ho, too far away I will go," sang the wok as it tumbled down the road with the Li family inside, legs waving in the air. Dragon dancers' drums boomed, cymbals crashed and firecrackers banged, drowning out the Li family's cry. No one noticed as the wok sped off to the distant hills. The Li family was never seen in Beijing again. As for the Zhang family, they opened a shop selling woks of all different sizes and styles. Every year, they hosted a glorious New Year's feast for all their friends and family. And to think that it all started with a rusted wok with no handle. Wasn't that a fun story?
皆さん、明けましておめでとうございます。Happy Lunar New Year, everyone. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy.
Hi, this is Lee Martin, preparator at Pacific Asian Museum. I'd like to take a moment to wish everybody a safe and happy New Year.
Hi, this is Quan Trang from Barnsdall here for the Pacific Asian Museum, and today we will be making our ox mask. And we're making this because 2021, it is the year of the ox. And all you need for today's project are 2 plates, 2 paper plates, a box. The box has to be a little smaller than the inside circle of the paper plate. You will need your scissors, masking tape, paint, and this is optional. Now, if you don't have paint, you can always use markers. Okay? And if you are using paint, you will need a cup and a brush. All right, so to start with the mask, what you need to do is I'm gonna take 1 plate and put this aside. You're going to take your small box and you're going to place it a little, not in the center, but a little lower to make that snout, okay? I want something to stick out. So I'm gonna first take down, I'm gonna use this so you guys can see what I'm doing. Tape down the box, and I really want it to stick like that, Okay, now I can reinforce it too, which I will do because I'm planning to paint this. So I don't want a little hole down here, a little crease down there. I want it nice and smooth. So I will be taking the tape and placing it around the bottom of the box to a point where it covers everything, okay? Now the thing is, if you are painting this, you want to do this because bits of paint is going to seep into the bottom of the box, and you don't want to pull down there. You want to make sure that it is fully covered, okay? So once I have this done, I'm finished with putting that box down. I'm missing my horn. To make the horn, all you do is you draw a line from a little bit, about 2 inches to 1.5 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches, and you're going to make a point right above here. From this point here, above the line that you made, you're going to go draw a line that goes big, thick all the way until the horn gets smaller. So when I cut this, it's going to come out looking like horn. So this is my pre-cut one. So if you cut this out, it's going to look like a horn, okay? All right, so what I do with this is I'm going to staple it here and here, okay? So there is my base of my ox mask. Then what I do is I paint it. I'm at the stage of ready to paint. This is fully painted. I did this earlier, so it can dry, and then you add the details with the marker. Now, if you're not painting it, then you can, of course, add the details right away. If you are painting it, you have to wait until the paint is completely dry because, as we know, felt tip marker, wet paint, do not mix. You will lose your marker. So I add some designs on the horn, and I'm ready to add the nose, which is going to be kind of like a little rainbow and 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. So it looks like kind of like a cloud, right? This is going to be where the snout is. Now I can add a little ring here if I wanted to. I can add my eyes on for my bull. Add the eyes there. Now I can puncture a hole with a pencil through the eyes if I want to, but I am not going to do that. I'm just going to actually leave it like this. I kind of like how it looks. I can add as many detail as I want. I can add, I have gold metallic marker, or silver, and I'm going to line it up onto the ring. So when you are finished with your detail, you are done with your mask. So I hope you enjoy making this mask. It is a very simple project, and have fun making it. Happy Chinese New Year.
Happy Lunar New Year, everybody. It's Courtney here. My favorite memory of USC PAM's Lunar New Year was a couple of years ago. It poured buckets of rain, and I had to help get the dancers and musicians down the stairs from where they were getting ready, through the galleries, out to the stages on the parking lot. And it was pouring, and they looked so gorgeous, and we had to do it, and we had a few umbrellas, but not enough. It was chaotic and wet, but it was still a blast. And we had 1,500 people there despite it all. So anyway, it was fun. It's a great tradition at PAM. Happy Year of the Ox.
Hi everybody. Happy Lunar New Year. May peace and prosperity be yours all year round for you and your family.
สวัสดีค่ะสุขสันต์วันตรุษจีนโชคดีค่ะ We want everyone to have a happy Lunar New Year from USC PAM.
恭喜發財，祝你龍馬精神，步步高升。Happy Lunar New Year, wishing you a healthy and prosperous new year. These greetings are often used to greet one another during the Lunar New Year, or also known as the Spring Festival. Along with these well wishes, food also plays a very important role during the Lunar New Year. Today, to celebrate, we're going to make Lo Bak Go, commonly known as turnip cake at dim sum. But the funny thing is that turnip cake isn't made with turnips, but with daikon. So really, it's daikon cake. And the reason why we use daikon cake to celebrate the Lunar New Year is because go, which also means cake, can also connote go as in bo bo go sing, which means advancement and prosperity. So today we're going to start by cooking up some daikon and mixing it to steam and create the cake that we love so much at dim sum. So first we're going to go ahead and chop our daikon into 2 to 3 inch pieces, like about that size. And then we're going to go ahead and peel the skin off. And I also like to save all of the vegetable peels because it makes really great stock for later, which we will use in the recipe. And it's also great to just have vegetable stock on hand in your refrigerator so that when you make soups or if you're cooking rice, you can use that as a liquid to add additional flavoring to your foods. So right here, I have my discards of vegetables that I'm collecting throughout this recipe so that I can make some vegetable stock of my own. Once you have peeled your daikon, you're going to go ahead and use a grater, the larger grate setting, to go ahead and shred your daikon into a bowl. I already have some daikon shredded, but I'm just going to shred a little bit more and add to it. You want your daikon shredded so that there's still texture when you eat your daikon cake, so it's not mushy throughout. Texture is very important in Chinese cooking. This grating activity is really great for involving the family, like kids, so that everyone can help out during the Lunar New Year. Okay, so once I get to like that little stump, I just put it in my discards. And I'm going to go ahead and set this bowl of daikon. See how everything's like nice and fluffy? I'm gonna set this aside next to my pan back here. And I'm going to turn up the heat on the stove to about like a medium low because we're going to go ahead and slowly simmer and cook our daikon until soft. The other ingredient we're going to use is the watermelon radish. I know commonly in Lo Bak Go, we don't use another type of radish other than a daikon, but I figured during the Lunar New Year, colors like red, pink are very auspicious and festive. So having a pop of color, see that beautiful pink is going to be super fun in our Lo Bak Go. I smell the skillet heating up, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my daikon into the skillet. So you're just gonna go ahead and pour all the daikon. Hear that sizzle? Pour all the daikon into the skillet to let it slowly cook until soft and tender. I'm also going to put a lid on it so it steams throughout. We're gonna let it simmer for about 10 minutes, but during those 10 minutes, we're also gonna season it with some salt so that we can really develop all the flavors. So back to the watermelon radish. You're gonna want to slice your radish to about 3/8 of an inch sliced. And then you're going to chop it the other way so that you end up with these 3/8 inch cubes of daikon radish. And it's going to be really great because as you're eating the daikon cake, you're going to have like bits of unctuousness from the cubes of watermelon radish, as well as other ingredients I'm going to start introducing you to. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of this in a bowl. Let's see. Bowl right here. I'm going to set this aside. Another very important ingredient in Lo Bak Go are shiitake mushrooms. So traditionally, Lo Bak Go has a lot of dry pantry items like dry shiitake mushrooms or dried shrimp. And usually these dry items need to be rehydrated in hot water for at least 30 minutes up to an hour so that they absorb all the liquid so that you can slice and chop them to go into the Lo Bak Go. And if you do plan on using dried items, just cut the ingredients amount in half, so half the weight, because the dry ingredients are much more potent than the fresh. And also make sure to keep your rehydrating liquid because there's going to be a lot of umami from your dried shrimp and your dry shiitakes. But today I am going to focus more on making Lo Bak Go with locally sourced ingredients that are sourced from the farmer's market. So today we're actually going to use fresh shiitake mushrooms. So notice the difference between the fresh shiitake and the dry shiitake. So I'm going to first take off the stem. Again, save it for my veg stock discard. And I'm also going to slice this into 3/8 inch slices because later when these shiitake mushrooms cook, they are going to shrink a little bit. So we don't want them to be too thin that you won't be able to taste it in the radish cake or daikon cake. Another important ingredient in our daikon cake is green onions, and you'll want them to be sliced thin, just like that. Make sure to slice the green and the white parts because both of them are super tasty. The white parts can actually develop to be a little bit sweeter and creamier, whereas the green part is a little bit more grassy. Another ingredient that I'm going to incorporate into the Lo Bak Go, which isn't normally used, is roasted garlic and shallots. It's one of my favorite ingredients. It's super easy. All you do is place your shallots and garlic cloves in a pan, cover with oil, and then you put it into the oven at 350 and just let it slowly roast for about like 45 minutes or so until it's soft. It's a staple item that I keep in my fridge. The oil is great because it can flavor anything that I want to fry. And then you have the shallots and garlic at your disposal to add to any recipe to up the flavor. Okay, I'm gonna go and check the daikon that's cooking on the stove, and I'm gonna go ahead and season it with some salt just to develop the flavor. So you definitely want to stir the daikon so it cooks throughout. Notice how a lot of the liquid is coming out of the daikon. You do want to cook the daikon and let the liquid evaporate so that the daikon won't taste soggy. We're halfway there. Just gonna season it with some more salt. Cover the skillet with a lid and let it continue steaming. The last important ingredient in Lo Bak Go is lap chung or lap yolk. Today, we're gonna use lap yolk. I was super lucky that my dad happened to air dry some Chinese style bacon at his house. So he dropped off some lap yolk for me. Look at that. It's so beautiful. It smells so good too. Like, there's no smoking involved, but you can smell the lap yolk as if it was, you know, taken through a smoking process. It smells so good. So for the lap yolk, you want to chop it into little pieces, little cubes, okay? Because you just want like little bits of like lap yolk gem to be in your Lo Bak Go. So you don't need a lot of it because you do still want to taste the daikon in your daikon cake. I'm gonna check back on the daikon and then we're going to return it back into the bowl. So once the daikon has softened, we're going to go ahead and pour the cooked daikon into the mixing bowl. Look at that steam. And we're going to return the skillet back to the stove. And with the same amount of heat, we're going to go ahead and cook our watermelon radish next and combine. While that is slowly cooking, we're going to go ahead and set up our steamer. So for the daikon cake, we do need to steam it. I personally don't have a steamer, but what I did was I created a makeshift steamer with my little stock pot. So in your stock pot, you will need a steaming rack like this. I found this at Asian Market in the houseware section. Super easy. You put it at the bottom of your pot and you're gonna fill it with water. About maybe like an inch or so, so that it does not go above the steam rack. And we're gonna go ahead and bring that water to a boil. You do want your steamer to come to like a rolling boil before you set your Lo Bak Go pan in. So while that is going, the next thing we're going to do is add our rice flour and tapioca starch. That is the binder for our Lo Bak Go. So normally rice flour is used, not glutinous rice flour, or sweet rice flour, because that actually adds like a little bit of like a chewy texture. Rice flour, you just want it so that it binds and holds and has that like kind of like soft texture that you find in Lo Bak Go. And if you don't have tapioca starch, you can use cornstarch or potato starch is fine too. So once I add it in, I'm going to actually take advantage of this daikon still being hot. I'm gonna fold it in so that the daikon is coated well with the rice flour and the tapioca starch. And on the bottom, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see, but it's gonna start forming sort of like a paste or a slurry. See that? It's a little bit more well coated now. And if it's still a little dry, this is when we're going to use our vegetable stock. You only need about probably half a cup of vegetable stock, but I'm going to start with about a tablespoon at a time to let the flours soak up the liquid. You don't want too much liquid because then your Lo Bak Go won't be as firm and it's going to fall apart on you later when you try to pan fry it. So it should look about like that. Okay, let's go take a look at our watermelon radish and see how well cooked it is. Just like that, I'm gonna pour it in. I just love the color so much. Now we're going to increase the temperature in our skillet and we're going to go ahead and cook off our bacon. Let it render so all the fat comes out. And you're going to want to keep the fat because that's the flavor. And you're gonna keep the fat to go ahead and saute off your shiitake mushrooms and your onions. And for the roasted garlic, I'm gonna go ahead and just smash them in between my fingers. And put it into my daikon cake mixture. For the roasted shallots, you'll need to chop them up. And the roasted garlic and shallots will really add a sweetness to your daikon cake. This looks like that. Let's go ahead and check out our Chinese bacon. So look at our lap yolk, our Chinese style bacon. The fat is rendering out. We do want it to take it to be a little bit golden brown, so similar to the one that you see right there in the middle of the pan. And while that is happening, we're also going to add our mushrooms. So we're adding the shiitake mushrooms and the green onions into the pan with the Chinese style bacon. We're gonna let this cook until the mushrooms brown, a little bit darker than that, until golden brown, and the green onions soften. So once the mushrooms and the green onions have softened and turned into a light golden, we're ready to add this back with our daikon. So we're going to add into our bowl of shredded daikon and rice flour mixture. Smells so good. I wish you all were here to smell this. Make sure to fold in all the ingredients. And notice that my mixture is a lot stiffer now. So this is probably a good time to just add a little bit more vegetable stock. 2 tablespoons. So far I have 4 tablespoons of vegetable stock in my daikon mix. You don't want it too wet, so again, you really want to be able to feel the mixture, how wet it is, and you can also hear it. You don't want it too wet You just want it to look like a slurry, kind of like a thick cream consistency. Okay, before we put this into the pan, we're gonna also season our daikon cake mixture. So first I'm gonna use some light soy sauce because we don't want to darken our daikon cake too much. We do want to keep it more of like a creamy white color. So the soy sauce, about a tablespoon. We're also going to use Shaolin wine, which is a cooking wine, just a tablespoon. And we're also going to add some sesame oil. The sesame oil will make the daikon cake taste a little bit nutty and sweet. And also we're going to be garnishing our daikon cake with sesame seeds after we cook it. So this will help bring out the flavor. Okay, and last but not least, we're gonna add some white pepper, a staple in Cantonese cooking. I'm gonna add about a 1/4 teaspoon. Just sprinkle it in there. Okay. And mix it all up. I see my pot steaming, so that means we're almost ready to put our pan in. So you'll need a 9-inch cake pan, such as this. You can also use like a glass loaf pan or even aluminum loaf pan, as long as it actually fits into your steamer. But I like the 9-inch cake pan the best, just because it gives me just the right thickness for my daikon cake. Before we pour the mixture in, you'll want to put a round parchment paper into your pan for easy release, and to coat your pan with some oil. So to make a parchment round for your cake pan, you'll need a sheet of parchment paper. I'm going to fold it in half and then in quarters. And then into a triangle. And then I'm going to measure from the center of my cake pan to the edge, so I'll know how large of a circle to cut. So that when you open it up, voila, it's a circle. And hopefully it'll fit into your 9-inch pan. And I'm also going to put a little bit of oil into my pan and just spread the oil around the parchment and along the sides of your cake pan. And this will help release your daikon cake after it steams. So I'm going to pour my mixture into the pan. This looks so good. Make sure to scrape all the love out of your bowl. And then you're gonna pat your daikon cake mixture into your pan. Sorry, that was my dog. She hears someone. Usually she's pretty quiet in the kitchen waiting for something to drop. So you're gonna spread it even layer. just like that. I love the colors of the watermelon radish, like the pink, and then you have like the brown from the shiitake mushrooms and the green from the green onions. It makes it really beautiful. So now we're gonna go ahead and put it in our steamer, and we're gonna steam it for about 55 to 60 minutes. Be careful not to burn yourself as you set this down into the steamer. Cover it, set our timer, and then we'll be back to finish off our daikon cake. I know waiting for the Lo Bak Go to steam definitely tests our patience. So I made one earlier, and I'm going to show you how to unmold it from the cake pan. So here's the Lo Bak Go that was made earlier. I'm going to take a paring knife to go around the edge of the pan. And then you're going to get a plate large enough to cover your cake pan, and you're going to flip your cake pan and maybe just tap it onto the surface a few times. Sometimes you might need to also like get like a spatula or something to kind of get it out of the pan. So I'm just gonna get us, oh, there you go. See how it kind of like lifts out? Exactly what I needed. So again, there you go. Don't forget to remove the parchment paper. Look at that. Beautiful. So now I'm going to show you how you can slice it up into either rectangles. I prefer cubes because then you have a larger surface area of crispiness, and we're going to pan fry it in our skillet. When you pan fry it into the skillet, because there's already some natural oils from the daikon cake, because remember we did add the lap yolk. We're going to pan fry our cubes of daikon cake in just a small amount of oil, just enough to coat the pan. And we're going to wait until each side becomes a golden brown color. So it's nice and crispy. See that? That's what we're looking for. And you should feel it releasing from the pan. Now I'm just going to flip it so that each side of the cube gets some crispy love. And if it does stick a little bit to the pan, just add a touch more oil to help it release. And there you have it, Lo Bak Go. I'm going to go ahead and put some more finishing touches on it. Some toasted black sesames, fresh chopped green onions, and some fried shallots. This goes really well with my favorite hoisin sauce, which, as you can tell, I use a lot of it, and a little bit of sambal olik, or a lacto-fermented hot sauce. It's delicious. Thanks again for making Lo Bak Go with me. Happy Lunar New Year.
Hola, soy Natalia Morales Evans y soy encargada de Relaciones Públicas y Comunicaciones en el USC Pacific Asian Museum. y de nuestra familia a usted, les deseamos un feliz año nuevo lunar.
¡Feliz Año Nuevo Lunar! Happy Lunar New Year! To celebrate the coming harvest season, I will be performing a Taiwanese farming folk song called Bua Changgua. I hope you have a happy and healthy year.
Happy Lunar New Year! From our family to yours.